everyone, we are live yet again. I'm jumping on just a hair early, but that's okay. And I will be keeping my eye out for my co-host of the week, and this is one of my authors' chats of the week. So expect to hear a lot about books, writing, publishing, and all that jazz. So I'll keep my eye out for my co-host today, and until then, just my base warm-up questions is, what is everybody reading at the moment? I'm working through Wheel of Time, Book 4. Been very, well, unfortunately haven't had a lot of time to dedicate to just fun reading recently, but my life's been crazy busy. That's okay. All good things, all good things. At least that's what I tell myself. But yeah, let me know if you guys are into books. What are you reading? Right now, I'm a fantasy author, so my jam is all things myth and lore and legend. So also, if you have a favorite mythology, let me know. Like I said, I'm keeping my eye out for my co-host. I know he will be jumping on hopefully in a moment. I shouldn't say no. Say assume. Thank you. But I always appreciate badges. Appreciate that. But yeah, so this past little week or so has been pretty cool. Had a recent audiobook release, which I always love those. Makes me feel like I'm moving ahead with my writing far quicker than I am. I'm reading Dance of Thieves. How is that? I have heard that's pretty popular, but I have not read it yet, so. But again, I'm one of those people who, I'll get to all the popular ones eventually. Maybe. Someday. I have a large stack of books. I just wish. I wish I had more time to dedicate to them. But yeah, so, I actually, we may talk about this later, I don't know, but in Georgia, and that's kind of where I'm located here in the States, we have a big all things nerd con in the kind of late summer, I guess you could almost call it early fall. I think it's the late summer. It's over Labor Day weekend here, like I said, in the States, and it's called Dragon Con, and I was recently accepted to be one of their authors there, so now I have to just slot into different panels, and I'm excited. Because last year I was invited kind of last minute to jump on the book talk panel, which was a lot of fun. I love talking, with anybody who enjoys fantasy books, nerding out about that stuff, and it was an honor to kind of represent the book talk community at that event last year, but, and I'm excited that I'll be back again. So we'll see what panels I get slotted into. Hopefully some fun ones, and if anybody is going to, or considering going to Dragon Con this fall, let me know. Late summer. Labor Day. Hello! Yeah, so I see him, so let me send my invite, and hopefully we're in and rolling. Yeah!
Okay, we did it.
Yeah, sorry, I was kind of keeping an eye on, trying to keep an eye on when you were up and ready.
All good.
Yeah, so
Yay,
how I kind of... Everybody, I see a lot of people chiming in at the moment on my end, and how I kind of do these, try to keep it fairly casual. So I'll let you introduce yourself and what you write, and however you like to pitch yourself as an author, and we'll go from there.
All right, fantastic. Without further ado, I am Marshall J. Moore. I am a fantasy author primarily. I've got 3 books out, soon to be 4, along with some 30 or so short stories published. My first 3 books are the Rites of Resurrection trilogy behind me, which are a series of necromancer murder mysteries in a city where all of the dead are repurposed into zombie servants. And in just over a week, my cozy fantasy debut, Son of a Sailor, is coming out. This is a pirate cozy fantasy about an infamous pirate captain who receives tragic news from home and returns to his tiny island hometown where no one knows he's a pirate. And about halfway through the book, his crew shows up unannounced, and his 2 halves of his life are thrown into a loop. It's a delight, and I'm really excited to share it with the world.
I love that!
Thanks.
So let me ask you, I guess to kind of start off with, since you have almost 4 books under your belt, so what inspired your original trilogy?
So the original trilogy was originally a standalone, The Pale City. The first one was just its own thing. It kind of started from just kind of D&D brainstorming, my best friend, of trying to make a viable necromancer archetype. And I started, I'm a very much world building oriented kind of person where I was like, well, wait, how does this work? Where, if you can ethically use the undead as labor, like what does a society built around that look like? And so the
Absolutely.
entire trilogy just kind of spun out of that simple question. Wrote the first book over the course of about 3-ish years, pitched it to my now publisher, and they said, "It sounds awesome. We'd love to publish it, but we don't do standalones. Can you make it a series?" Now there's 3.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing because for people who are trying to query and go traditional, I mean, I'm indie, but one thing I've been told, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you query, people prefer standalones with the opportunity to potentially make it into a series. And for whatever reason, that's the way they like things pitched to them, and that's very hard for me since I'm definitely a series writer, and to write one by itself would be super hard.
Yeah, that was absolutely the intent, because I was fully intending to send it out to the agent querying trenches, like I've done 3 times previous with 3 other manuscripts. And I just happened to, meet a publisher who was a good fit and who showed a genuine interest when I talked to them in person about it and encouraged me to submit, and it worked out. So it's like, everything else in publishing. It's a lot of work and a little bit of luck that fortunately just haven't paid off.
Oh, that's so neat. And you were talking about D&D vibes, and I know talking with a bunch of people over this past year or so on these kind of chats that the vibe of D&D fantasy literature is growing and growing. So that's pretty neat. And I don't know, what do you market your books as? Like, are they young adult? Are they like what kind of?
Uh, so for these 3, I say that they're high fantasy wearing an urban fantasy trench coat. It's a secondary world setting. It's, not our Earth. It's a, very much world building focused approach type story. Um, but it strikes tonally and narratively a lot of the sort of noir mystery urban fantasy type tropes. So it's kind of a genre mashup for those 2.
Love that.
Son of Sailor is a pirate cozy, which
Yep.
cozy fantasy is new and growing, and there's not enough pirate books out there. And my whole aesthetic is pirates, so I saw the opportunity to fill that niche and went for it.
I love that. And yeah, so let me ask you then. I don't know, is your cozy fantasy being published the same way as your, same to the same people as your trilogy, or is this a totally different route?
This is my first foray into self-publishing. So
Ah,
yeah, I don't think I could have done it without the trilogy being published with a traditional publisher, because that really did help give me, a behind the scenes on all of the business and editing side of things. And, it's been an adventure figuring all that out for ourselves, but that definitely was a way to ease ourselves into navigating. I say us, my wife Megan has been fantastic help in the business side of things, and just as well as providing excellent alpha feedback. She's really invested in this story and has really helped it grow. And I definitely could have written the book without her. So I am very
oh,
grateful to her, and we're excited for its release because we worked really hard on it.
yeah, well, you should be, because I mean, every book, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes in order to get it ready, and it's so satisfactory and just I'm missing the word right now, but like just such a good feeling when you're able to finally release this thing you've been working on for, depending on the author, years, to get it ready. So
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah,
And
no, it's really big.
when is it releasing exactly, or do we have an exact date yet?
May 25th.
See, right around the
Yep.
corner. So everybody, keep
From
your
tomorrow.
ears and eyes open. And I have a comment here from and another one of my author friends here saying, "Never enough pirate books in the world." So there you go.
True. My first novel manuscript, like 120,000 words, entirely unpublishable, was pirate epic fantasy. So like this is a much more scaled back, lower stakes, and a much more personal storyline. But definitely, I knew I was always going to come back to the pirates eventually. So I'm really glad I
Yeah.
was able to here.
No, that's cool. And you were right about the fact that cozy fantasy is definitely picking up speed. And I have to admit, I have yet to read one. I have a couple on my TBR, and I promise I will get to them. It's just I'm a slow reader. But I do know that genre is picking up speed, and so many people just love feel-good stories. And again, those warm and cozy vibes. So that is really
Yeah.
kind of fun, and I love it. And I hope you do very well in your new niche.
Yeah, we so that's honestly part of the reason that we elected to self-publish this one rather than trying
Hmm.
to pitch it anywhere or try and convince my publisher to put it out. Just the speed at which we could turn around because it's
Hmm.
super new genre. I mean, Legends of
Oh yeah.
Lattes came out like what last February or something. So like we want to hop on that train while there's still time, and the most efficient way to do that is just to put all the upfront work in ourselves. So it's been a really fun, wild ride. It's super cool to get this. Like I love all of my covers. It's actually the same artist for the trilogy and for Son of a Sailor.
Oh wow.
She was available. She did a fantastic job on all four of them. But like, there was something really
Mm.
special about like I designed everything for this
Yes.
instead of like just the art brief for the publisher. So that was really cool. I'm still just like not over the fact that I can actually hold it in my hands now.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what is your favorite aspect of the self-publishing process that's different from traditional? Because when I talk to a lot of authors, they either are one or the other, but you're one of those who now have become hybrid in the sense that you have a little bit of dipping a toe in either field. So what do you like of both?
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna say for both. Right.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
the big pro for me for the self-publishing route has been the amount of control we've had over it, from
Mhm.
just purely a like marketing and reaching out to ARC readers and doing like giveaway type stuff. Like there's just a whole lot of we get to set the terms of like how we're going to promote this, which has been really cool and really fun, especially because this is a story that is deeply personal to me and that I'm very
Mhm.
invested in. I'm invested in these as well, but like there's a team helping me with those. Whereas here it's me and my wife and coming
Mhm.
from the heart. Um, the flip side is that I do miss having a whole group to work with, like I did for the trilogy with my publishers. We have some really good friends who have baited for us and who have been really good, beta feedback and early readers, ARC readers who are all providing, really touching responses and saying the story works for them and that they enjoyed it and all this really enheartening stuff. But I do miss the team aspect of the
Mhm.
working with a publisher, which admittedly is one of the strengths of the fact that I am with a mid-size publisher in Shadow Alley. If I was with a larger one like one of the big five or even something a little larger mid-size like Bane, I don't know that I would get that level of personal feedback. So pros and cons to each, but they've both been really fun, and I'm just enjoying the adventure.
That is great. I love that. And I have I think, a comment for you saying, so cozy fantasy is simply a romance or mystery set in a fantasy world. So explain cozy fantasy as a genre. That's the question, essentially.
Yes, thank you. So, and I'm not an expert. This is my first foray into it, and I've only read, I think, like four-ish books in the genre.
New
Um,
genre.
yeah, brand new genre. Had some predecessors. A lot of like Miyazaki or Diana Wynne Jones
I
could be
love Miyazaki.
classified as like proto cozy, but the codifier for cozy fantasy is Legends and Lattes, which came out
Yeah.
in February of last year, I believe, and is about an orc adventurer hanging up her sword and retiring to a city to start a coffee shop. And coffee hasn't like made it to this setting yet anywhere, but like in the Gnomish lands or whatever. So like the idea is it's much more slice of life. There can be a romance aspect, but there doesn't have to be. Lower, I've heard it described as low stakes, and there's sort of some debate as to whether or not that is the like genre qualifier or if it's more low trigger is what I've heard as well.
Mm,
The common consensus seems to be that it is not grand and sweeping epic adventures. It's low trigger. It's everyday life, but with like more relatable stuff. Um, like cozy non fantasy for me would probably be TV shows like Parks and Recreation or Ted Lasso. Like that feeling of comfort and that everything is going to be okay that entails. And so cozy fantasy by extension is that same vibe, but in a more fantastical setting with fantastical characters, but with their struggles much more down to earth and relatable to you and I who do not live in Middle Earth or wherever we are setting our story. So your mileage may vary. People might disagree with me, but that is my definition as I understand it.
I love it. And I I do like this idea. I think one of the things that people are latching on to this genre is because so many of us with our day-to-day lives, there's so many other stressors and everything. I mean, I'm an epic fantasy author. You can't get to a book that has too many high stakes. That's me. But
Yeah.
in general, people want that wind down. People want that comfort. People want, as we like comfort food, we like the warm tea to drink, that what is it, the tea and crackers vibe that the first, as we were saying, the Legends and Lattes gave you. And as you were mentioning for cinema, Miyazaki, because I
Yeah.
know on a stressful day, that is what I've been doing for weeks on end, is I will throw on a Miyazaki. I finished Castle in the Sky last night because it just feels good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people cite Miyazaki as like something that could qualify as cozy fantasy, like very much matches that aesthetic sensibility. Another one I really like is like basically just all the Shire chapters in Lord of the Rings. Those are all cozy because it's just hobbits dealing with their little domestic drama. Lobelia, Sackville, Baggins stealing spoons and stuff. That's all cozy conflict.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's funny because my wife asked me like back earlier this year because again we were going for rapid turnaround. I wrote this book in 6 weeks from idea to first draft being completed. Incredible. But like she asked me like towards the end of January, she was like, "Would you write a cozy?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's not necessarily my genre because I'd read a few and I liked them, but I was like, I'm an epic fantasy author. Look at my epic fantasies." And then like the next day, I texted her. I was like, "Okay, so it's gonna be pirates. So it's gonna be cozy, but it's gonna be like Jimmy Buffett." And then it just went from there.
I love it. I love it. Yes, I have a comment popping up saying thank you for answering. So now you educate some more people. And I do think that's really good because there's so many subgenres popping up or new full-on genres kind of muscling their way into some of these older, well-known ones that it's good to kind of um, educate people, especially while a genre is still defining itself too. Because
Right.
like you said, this one is so new that its definitions trying to still figure that out. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But
Yeah.
I love that. Do you think, and I'm just curious because I'm a person who I write epic fantasy, and my struggle, blessing and curse, is that because epic fantasy is such a wide umbrella genre, there are so many ways you can go with it, and I do go so many ways that my readers for one series may not be the readers for another. I have young adult, new adult, adult, the grim, dark fantasy, all the way to the noble bright, kind of more positive side of fantasy and questing based stuff. So, not to say there isn't an overlap, but marketing can be kind of tricky for me. For you, branching from epic fantasy to cozy, I mean, that's even, I feel like, even a slightly larger jump. Do you think that's going to put any marketing, challenges your way, or do you think it's fine? I was just curious.
No, that's an excellent question, and I say we have a lot. My wife we've both put a lot of thought and effort into figuring out how to market this. We struggle to market the trilogy because it's a difficult one to elevator pitch. So because I can't just be like, this is the plot. I gotta be like, okay, so there's a city where whenever you die, you get turned into a zombie servant, and like it's hard to two sentence that because the premise is so inherently wound up in that world building. But you don't care about world building if you're a reader. You care about the character and the plot. So for this one, we've really dove into like everything we want to do with it. And largely, I think I do have an established fan base from the 30 books. And I think the way to kind of bridge that gap has been engaging with that fan base directly. I have a Discord. It is in my link tree. Feel free to join anyone listening who is not already there. I've got a newsletter. And so like the people who have found me through the Rise to Resurrection trilogy and are already reading my stuff, I'm interacting with them regularly. I'm, sending them messages about all my updates and publications and stuff. And so they have an investment in me as the author rather than just me as the person who wrote these stories. And so the fact that I'm pivoting to a different subgenre has them curious and willing to follow me along because they like the quality of my writing rather than just the content of my writing, or at least that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Discord is one that I hear more and more authors utilizing it's one that I'm a lurker on it. I don't really do anything on it myself outside of I'm in a couple groups and everything and kind of periodically will check the chats, but because I'm on so many other socials, I feel like I'm stretched thin, enough as it is
Yeah.
that I haven't taken advantage of it, but I've heard a lot of good things. So how do you like using Discord as an author?
I so I'm a little bit where you're at because I'm in several other TikTok personalities discords, but I
Hmm.
just kind of lurk in those. I'm pretty active in my own, partially because I just feel a sense of responsibility that these are the people who are here for me, and I do want to make sure I'm engaging, and also I like them because they're great people. Uh, but Discord is comfortable for me because I've been
Hmm.
using it the longest. Like I had a Discord long before TikTok even existed.
I got yeah.
I conducted like 3 or 4 year long role playing campaign via Discord entirely that basically kept
Fantastic.
saying during COVID lockdown. So like I'm comfortable with the platform, and while I do need to be more active in certain Discords, I'm happy to use them, and I think it provides a good route of access from reader to author while still maintaining the slight separation of the parasocial relationship. You want to be accessible, and you want to be talking to your fans, and you want to be treating them like the people that you love and respect that they are. But it's not as like weirdly crossing lines as like I don't know, friending them on Facebook.
That's fantastic. I have a question we'll get to just one second. Did have someone say that they enjoy really well built worlds, and that sounds like, with anybody who claims epic fantasy, you really need to have a well built world, built
Yeah.
world in order to do that. But I had a question in general saying, trying to start my own newsletter. Any tips? Do you have a newsletter? I do, but I don't know.
Okay, that's
It's okay.
yeah. So I do have a newsletter. You're gonna want to. There are several platforms out there to get those set up. MailerLite, I believe, is the one we use.
I
Initially
use
was
it.
Mailchimp, but because
Hmm.
that's free. But like I think once you hit a certain number of subscribers, it MailerLite just worked better for us.
Hmm.
We try and do it, I think, pretty much on a weekly basis.
Ooh, that's
And I think the key there is making sure, just like with the self promotion via TikTok, you've always got something to announce. You don't want it to be annoying. You don't want to be the person who's like spam messaging every 2 weeks. That's what it is. You don't want to be the person who's like spamming the newsletter and showing up in everybody's inbox all the time. But you want it to be where you have things to announce, which is part of why we're doing, we'll announce giveaways or free sample chapters. Like the first chapter of Son of Sailor is currently up on my Linktree right now to read. So check it out if you are intrigued, but don't know if you want to commit to pre-ordering the ebook
mhm.
version yet. So like just keeping it so that there are things for you to inform them about, and that you are informing them directly. This is me telling you, the reader, hey, here's what I've got going on, and I thought you might be interested in knowing, rather than just like, hey, please buy my book every 2 weeks.
Yes, and I do think it's nice to always offer something with your newsletter. Now, this doesn't have to be a full freebie book itself. It could be saying, hey, like you mentioned, giveaways or discount deals, depending on what you're doing, or if you're announcing or involved with some kind of group bundle, those kind of things too. And newsletters are also a great way to find, interaction with people on a different level, because not everybody's on this platform, and this one is very easy to engage almost on a face-to-face or even face-to-face like we're doing today level. But some other socials and platforms, it's a little harder to do. So you have a newsletter, you can kind of say, hey, this is a little bit about me or my life going on, here's some of the struggles I'm going with, here's where I am with my writing. And it's again another way to connect with people. And a great way to start it up is maybe find a few authors and start offering book swaps. So what that means is, you're mentioning, but again, I think it's usually better to find books in your field, but say, hey, here's an author. If you don't know about them, they're also, for me, I'm an epic fantasy author. Have you heard about this book? Here's a little bit about them. And they'll do the same on their newsletter. And it's another way to get new eyes on your stuff. But
Yeah.
newsletters can be pretty beneficial. There's a lot you can do with them.
There absolutely are. My wife wanted me to clarify that we might scale back from the every 2 weeks when there's less to announce because, like, after Son of Sailor's out, I don't have anything
Mhm.
coming on the immediate horizon. I've started work on a sequel to that one, so like there's stuff in the works, but nothing super announceable at the moment. So we might scale back from every 2 weeks. I was actually just listening the other week to the Writing Excuses podcast. Have you listened to that at all?
I have not, but I know there are fantastic podcasts out there, but I don't know this one.
Yeah, they're excellent. Brandon Sanderson started it. He doesn't co-host super often these days, but Mary Robinette Kowal, who is a Hugo Award-winning author, she's also a TikTok presence, is one of the regular hosts. Dan Wells, several other just like well-respected people within the writing community in general and the sci-fi fantasy community as well,
Mhm.
with fantastic writing advice. And currently, they're doing a series on marketing and promoting and networking. You know, all the awkward business stuff that writers don't necessarily have an intuitive grasp on doing.
Mhm.
And they did one not long ago on newsletters. And one of the ones that I thought was really interesting is that Mary Robinette Kowal sends a short story to her newsletter subscribers on their birthday. uh,
Oh.
yeah, exactly. I don't do that because I am of the mindset that me not being at Mary Robinette's level, I'm down there. People don't know who I'm in. I am strangers who walk into Barnes and Noble. Um, I don't want to collect more information that people
Mhm.
might not feel comfortable giving. Like, you sign up for the newsletter, you give me your email, that's fine. But like, I can hear the alarm bells triggering when people are like, "Why does he want my birthday?" It's like, no, so I can send you a story. But I think the idea of it is really neat, and so one day I might do something like that. We do have a like sign up and receive a short story, just not scheduled for your birthday present.
Well, and there's if you're not comfortable, and that's a great point about being comfortable with what you ask out of your subscribers, especially
Right.
upon sign up. But one thing is toward the holiday season, you could always say, hey, here's my annual gift to you, and give them a short story or something like that. So then it's not, you don't have to dedicate it to everybody's birthday, but it's something, just a bonus saying, hey, here's your Christmas bonus, a free
Yeah,
short story on me.
that's a very good idea, and I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I short stories attached to your newsletter in small doses because you don't want to be foisting anything on people that they don't
Hmm.
opt into. Is definitely a good idea. Um, yeah, newsletters are a new topic for me, but as you can tell, I'm pretty invested in figuring them out. So
And one of the things that it took a little bit of time to figure out how to do, but once I did, it's one of those onboarding campaigns. So what that means is you create a bunch of auto posts upon signing up. And for me, some of that is, yes, initially I want you to sample some of my work. So I do give out a couple short stories and give a first few chapters of each of my first books of series so people can get the vibe and decide what they like and dislike. Again, not trying to shove things down people's throat, but just give them a taste of what they may expect, talk a little bit, and the auto post get them into it. Because some people will sign up and then realize, and this goes for newsletters across the board, that's not whatever they thought it was going to be. It's not what they want, and it gives them a chance to also be like, I'm not really into it, and bow out before they get into my regular newsletter, which I do monthly to bi-monthly, depending on if there is an extra special announcement, and that usually is in the case of audiobooks because audiobooks release at random times. Just random
right,
times.
yeah. Um,
But there's a lot to learn when it comes to being an author.
yeah, exactly, and it's like it's just so interesting because like the skills that you need to craft a coherent narrative and the skills you need to market that narrative are there's not a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram. It's not like it's impossible to learn. Like marketing is a learned skill like anything else. But just it's such a different learning curve from the actual writing. Like, I don't know. As an author, you're a small business, and that's
Hmm.
really it's not framed that way a lot when people talk about writing because we get so focused on the craft that we once we get to the point where we're actually being professional writers, we go, oh, now I have to do business,
Yeah.
and it's just a
Yeah.
interesting learning curve.
Yes, and I have a comment popping up that newsletters are sometimes a rough medium, but YouTube he feels is taking over. Now I can see that to an extent because YouTube is another great way to create this interface. You can do lives on it, You can post again these kind of videos in longer forms than you can on this platform, but I don't know if you can distribute samples without, reading them out loud. And it's one of those things as an author, if you want to, when you create some of these special perks, you want to limit them. In other words, make sure they're just like a reward for subscribing versus anybody stumbling upon it. And I just don't know YouTube intimately enough to know if you can figure stuff like that out to kind of fully replace a newsletter. A nice thing about newsletters too, one of my friends on here, Jason Duro, has talked about it a couple times, is the fact that worst case scenario, something weird happens and all socials disappear. Newsletters are a way you personally can control reaching out to your readers on a one-to-one. You have that control, and it's that direct link, that's why sometimes they're important too.
Right, exactly. The reason that we started transitioning, well, not transitioning, because obviously I'm still posting here every day, but the reason we started like being like, okay, we need to make sure we have a Discord set up and a newsletter set up was back when in like February or so when the government was talking about, banning TikTok in the United States. I was like, I just got these several tens of thousands followers after I went viral. I need them to stay connected, the ones who want to actually read my stuff. Got to find alternate routes. And like you said, the newsletter is a direct author to reader link. Like, I don't think that Elon Musk is going to swoop in and buy MailerLite or MailChimp and turn them into a cesspool. Like, I mean, God, I hope not. But like, it provides me, a direct way to address the readers, talk to them in a way that they opt into and that is not going to suddenly be the unpopular social media site, which also, bears mentioning that I think that's why it's important for us to diversify. I'm working on getting more of my content changed over to Instagram, because if things ever do go wrong with TikTok, then I want to at least have some carryover there. And there are also an untapped audience there. Like, there are people who, for whatever reason, refuse to get TikTok, and I can reach them via Instagram. Just got to make sure I'm diversifying what is put out there. Also, you and Jason are both going to be at DragonCon, I believe.
Yes, we are.
I'll see you there.
I was going to ask that because I was trying to, I went through some of your videos before this because I did see your you had a pinned introduction video, and I was like, you're in Atlanta. And I was like, you're my neighbor then, because I'm right outside Atlanta. So I was like, we're neighbors.
Yay. I didn't even know. We've got to meet up in person sometime then.
Yeah, because I'm in Roswell, so I'm right north of where you are.
You're my hat, basically.
I am your hat. But yeah, I was just like, that's pretty cool. Small world, but that's neat. So I'm excited. This will be my second Dragon Con, and so we shall see how it goes.
Number 4 for me. They're a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Are you now, let me ask then, for people who like cons, are you going to dress up, or do you just go casually and appreciate everybody else in costume? Or do you dress as your characters?
So, I don't have it finalized yet, but this year I'm planning on doing a little bit of pirate dress up. I'm not necessarily going to be my character, but I did get a tricorn hat for my birthday, and I'm going to look into getting poet shirt and breeches and riding boots or whatever to complete the look. I've dressed up, I think, 3 times. So the first one I went to was 2012, and I was like just a random Hogwarts student for that. I had like my Ravenclaw scarf on and was like, yeah, this is good enough. I dressed as Daredevil, but like the Black Suit edition for 2021, but that was the year that face masks were required, and it turns out when you've got this part of your face covered and this part of your face covered, it doesn't really convey the character.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So that one was kind of a bust. I changed clothes in my car like halfway through because I was just getting hot. But my big one is the 2019 Dragon Con. I dressed as Sagat from Street Fighter, so I shaved my head and my chest, and my wife applied scar makeup across my chest and my face, and I got my fighting wraps and my boxing shorts and an eye patch, and was just I committed pretty hard for that one.
Dedication.
Yeah, I'm not going to shave my head again. I don't think. Too much effort.
I love that. No, I was always curious because, I've talked to a few authors, and so far I haven't found any author dressing as their character. Now I know most of the authors I've talked to, um, are not necessarily at the same level as Brandon Sanderson. I get it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always considered, I was like, should I dress as my character? When someone asked, I'm like, well, it's about this book. By the way, I wrote it.
I've got a friend in my publisher who she dresses her character, and her character is like a dragonborn type,
Oh
reptile
yeah.
person, and like it was a really cool costume. They're not from here, so they actually shipped it to our place, and like we took it in our mailroom and like brought it to them once they arrived in Atlanta. That was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun to like. Here's the costume you sent to us.
No, that would be probably an intense costume. I think that
It
would be kind of
was.
cool. So here's this off the wall question. But I was thinking about it while we were talking. Is the fact that there are I'm trying to remember the group's actual name, but the creators of Vox Machina, the show, they are voice actors who play D&D as a group, and that's what they got popularized as. And now they have the animated shows spinning off from that. I don't know, for anybody who plays tabletop role playing in any kind of form, D&D is what I'm familiar with. But I wonder how much interest they would have to have authors come up with characters and live stream against other authors playing a game together, because we are inherently people who create worlds and characters, and so developing your own and coming up with a virtual match that people can watch being played, I don't know if that would be really cool or too much pressure.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think that like you'd have to have gamed with them before, because otherwise, authors being authors, you're gonna end up with 6 game masters and no players.
That's fair. You have to dedicate to who is the game
Yeah.
master and just leave it. That is not your role.
Right. But no, that could be a lot of fun. Yeah, pencil me in if you ever decide to do that, because that could be a really fun time, I think.
Well, I will let you know. I will let you know. No, it's kind of cool because I have talked and found out that, when you talk about people, especially who love fantasy, there are great overlaps between different types of fantasy. Literature being one,
Mhm.
gaming of various sorts is another, cinema or TV shows or other kind of things is another, cosplaying is another.
Yeah.
It's all how people relate to the concept of fantasy. And because there's so much overlap, I think authors, especially indie authors, can be very creative on how to find potential new readers by reaching out to fantasy fans of all sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean that's sort of part of why the cons are so appealing, because like you'll meet and be exposed to authors and creators that you haven't encountered previously at conventions. Dragon Con is a little bit hectic just because it's huge, but like smaller ones especially, you have the opportunity to like meet people who are into the same stuff as you, and it's it's an excellent networking opportunity. It's an excellent opportunity to this is so like marketing speak, but like build your brand or whatever.
But it's true.
Just in like, but it is, yeah. Like this is me, this is what I'm about, and you should never be approaching these interactions from a standpoint of like, please buy my book, because that's no one wants that. But if people get to know you and get to like you and the stuff you're into, they're more likely
Hmm.
to show interest down the road. And I mean, and that goes both ways. You get a new relationship with somebody, new interactions and new perspectives, and all from the comfort zone of knowing we are both here to celebrate these things that we already have a mutual interest in. So, like that first step of the social interaction has already been filled for you. So that's part of the reason I love cons. Like they're a great time.
So, how would you ever react if someone dressed up as one of your characters at a con and you noticed that?
I mean, I would be flattered beyond belief and like desperately require pictures. There, what I am secretly hoping, there is a mermaid in this book, and she is not like a human woman looking mermaid. She is a
Hmm.
weird little reptile critter, and I want to see somebody cosplay her so bad.
That would be fun. That would be really cool.
Yeah,
I love that. So,
she's
what got
she's
you
gonna be the
into,
breakout.
what inspired your love of pirates?
I was born on a tiny tropical island in the Pacific, so it was kind of already there.
Wow. I did not expect that one.
Yeah.
That's great.
My dad was Army officer in the United States Army, and so there's a military base out there that they conduct missile testing at. So that's where I was born and raised on and off until I was 13 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That
it's
is
actually it's the Marshall Islands is the country, which is why they named me this.
I like these fun facts. I don't have necessarily that fun fact based off my name, but I like those fun facts. I really do.
Most people don't believe me that's a real country.
I've actually heard of them before.
Usually in World War II textbooks.
Maybe, maybe not. But that is a cool fact. Now, for your character, where did you come up with the concept of your pirate? Main character, female main character?
Male main character, Captain Redbeard. His face is completely hidden by the not for resale bar, so he's Captain Not for Resale Beard. But I can't take credit for that joke. One of my friends told that joke already. So the idea initially was like this whole premise is pirate goes home to a small hometown where nobody knows he's a pirate, and I already had in mind I was like, okay, the easiest way for him to like swap identities is like, he shaves his face, and like that way if his pirate identity is Captain whatever Beard, because Blackbeard is probably the most famous pirate in Western culture, then shaving off the beard, voila, no longer Captain Redbeard. So that was just a really easy way to determine, who he was going to be and what his name was going to be, and build his pirate nom de plume from there.
I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Is your, cause now that I know you have mermaids, which I guess pirate fantasy, almost people assume that they're going to be in there. That's not the case. So where did you come up with the concept of a mermaid that looks very different from what people expect?
So, okay.
Merperson.
Merfolk, I think is the
Merfolk? Okay.
current non-gendered. Okay, so it's a secondary world fantasy. This isn't like the Bahamas or the Caribbean or anything. Like it's, different world. Because that's the kind of playground that I prefer to play in, is a world where I can just make up all the rules myself and not worry about adhering to real world history. And that would probably qualify for fantasy by itself. Like you don't necessarily have to have any magical elements for it to be fantasy other than the secondary world element. But I wanted to commit to having a little more in there without necessarily being outright anything magical or supernatural. So the existence of a sapient non-human race, which ended up being merfolk, was kind of the natural extension. And as for that, this is not a spicy book. There is none of that. And so there's not really any need for mer people. Like if they exist, they're not going to look like us. Like they're not going to be descended from arboreal primates that swing through the jungle. Like they're going to be aquatic creatures. So I followed that chain of logic where it led, and ended up with aesthetically and it's never going to come up within the actual book because they're like age of sail 1800s 1700s era society, but mermaids in this book are essentially descended from like sea snakes the way that we are from apes. Like that's the sort of biological niche that they occupy. Yeah, and so it allowed me to come up with some like fun like social and physical quirks for them. Really just it's only the one character in the first book, but they were really fun to write, and just in terms of like they're going to be a little different from us. Like I want to keep in mind at all times that this is definitely not a human person while still keeping her a person.
I love that. In the back of my head, I don't know, again, my brain sometimes works two things at once, which is like the level of multitasking I can handle, but nothing else. Anywho, when you were talking about that, I just like popped in my head like a great thing merchandise wise for you, and again authors, indie authors especially, get to figure out how we want to represent and what else we want to do to build our brand, and would be coming out with like some kind of character art, but in the style of those There Be Monsters on old school sailor maps
Oh,
of your mer people, and have that as something. I don't know. I think that would be
yeah.
kind of cool. That's like my jam. That's the stuff that I love tacking up on my walls, is anything fantasy creature and entity.
I love that, and that is a really good idea that I'm definitely going to take. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
know she's definitely kind of the mascot character. I think like the feedback for everybody's been like, I love this character. Um, I this is I got this idea from Andrea Stewart, the Bone Shard Daughter author. She has stickers and enamel pins of Mephi, who's her weird little like otter creature who's like sort of a little chimera of different animals, but is like super cute and adorable, and everybody loves him. And she showed me the art style, and I'm just like, I want to commission that for the mermaid, like
Yes.
little like almost chibi sort of looking
Hmm.
art. Like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be commissioning something at some point for her because yeah, I love my mermaid child.
There you go. I love that. I love that. And that's something that I need to. I've been hearing a lot of people mention enamel pins, and I need to up my sticker game. And I know a lot of people in the bookish community love both. And so those are things that when I have some time, maybe towards the latter end of this year, theoretically, when I have this thing called time, I will look into that kind of stuff as well. But there's always great ideas. Great
Yeah,
ideas.
no, that's one of the fun things about getting to know other authors is just looking at like what they're doing to promote themselves
Hmm.
and like stealing that, putting that in my toolkit.
We share with love. We share with love
Yeah,
already.
exactly. I mean, it's it's collaborative, like we're doing right now. We talk with each other about these ideas, and it builds some kind of consensus. Like
Hmm.
it's very fun because it does writing in itself is a solitary activity. So
Yeah.
the promotional side of it and the networking and just meeting other people in the community aspect really helps keep it from feeling quite as isolating.
Yes, and I've mentioned this on some of my lives before that I view myself as an extreme extrovert. So it weirds some people when they meet me out the fact that I work from the house all day. And I'm actually okay with it. But it's also because there are odd ways that I interact. And this is just one of those, it's a virtual way of interacting to keep me sane throughout the week, but it's another way of engagement and, interacting in a field when you don't have coworkers next to you all the time.
Right. Exactly. you know, this is work that necessitates alone time, but also we are social creatures by nature and do need that interaction to keep us from going nuts.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. Now, one of the things that I have enjoyed in the past, I haven't done one lately, is doing a book signing. Have you ever done them before? And if so, is that something you're considering?
Yeah. So I debuted The Pale City, the first book in my trilogy, at Dragon Con last year because I had actually met my publisher at the previous year's Dragon Con, pitched it to them, all of that at that stage. And so they've got a booth. It's always on the third floor, right by the escalators of the vendor mart. So anybody listening coming to Dragon Con, that's where you find me in August.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's September this year. I think it's September 1st is the first day.
Yeah,
Um,
it's over that the first one. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's always end of August, start of September, but I think it's
Mhm.
fully in September this year. Um, anyway, they've got a booth. I'm going to be signing books there. I don't know when exactly. Technically, all the authors who are in attendance for the con have different sign up slots that we'll put out like a month or a few weeks before the con starts. Um, but like I was basically at the booth the whole time this past year, so I was there to sign all the books that I sold, which is really fun and really cool.
Very nice.
Yeah. This year I don't think I'm going to be paneling, but I've got my fingers crossed too, and I'm definitely going to be blocking out more panels to attend because that's half the fun of the con.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially the book talk one. Like now that I am a certified book talker, I would like to be there to actually meet people. Um, but yeah, it's signing is really fun. I was at a smaller convention in March, or maybe it was late February, called Nerdy Gras here in town, and I got to sell a good handful of copies and sign them for everybody there too. So like, it's always
I didn't
neat
know
because you
that
get to
one.
like say what
I said I didn't know that one.
it's new. Like it literally
Okay.
just started this year. This is the first one. And I only knew about it because a friend was like, "Hey, this is last minute, but are you doing anything this weekend? Do you want to speak on a panel at some cons?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Absolutely.
Yeah, I spoke on a panel for the first time there, which is really fun. I think our attendance capped out at like 6 people in the audience, so like
Mhm.
the fun of a startup con. But it was really a blast. Like I got to chat with some other authors and like talk about writing process and stuff. Um, yeah, paneling is really fun. But yeah, so anyway, answer the question. I will be at DragonCon this year at the Shadow Alley booth signing books. I will let everybody know when I know what times I will be officially signing. But if you stop by the Vendors Mart and find me, I'll probably be there unless I'm at a panel. Um, I'm also going to be a guest at Multiverse this year, which is also here in Atlanta, just outside the perimeter. So that's my my second official guest appearance because, like I said, the Nerdy Grow one. That's sort of a medium size, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to be there with my friend October, who is one of the most connected authors I know. Like he's incredible. He's friends with some A-list names in the writing community, and he's a marketing or a networking savant. It's amazing. But he'll be there. I'll be there. The headliner is Rebecca Roanhorse. Like it's going to be a cool con. So that is Multiverse in October. I'm getting asked any events in New York City. No, but I'll let you know if I ever do because that would be incredible. I would love to go to New York for a con.
And there are so many cons and things. It's just, I know at least I can speak for myself. When you're a small time author and everything financially is on me, and there's no kind of money coming my way in order to counterbalance money that I'm spending to travel, it's harder for, authors to make some of the farther away cons. Not impossible, but harder to do than doing something in the backyard, but we'll all get there, hopefully.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, no, I was just, one of the ones I was interested in, it's a book festival in Atlanta, again, being in the Atlanta area, is the Decatur, I think it's either Decatur or DeKalb book festival. It's like, yes, except they put a hiatus on this year, and I was just like, I finally got to the point where I'm ready.
Same, like exactly the same. Like I actually volunteered at last year's and like met with the volunteer coordinators and stuff, and they were like, "Oh yeah, send in your application when applications open for the 2023 one, and we'll put it at the top of the list." I'm like, "Awesome, thanks." Checked in earlier, like last month, and I was like, "Oh, it's gone." Like
I know, it happens. I'm sure they have their reasoning, but sad. Hopefully, they come back next year, because I was really excited about it. And I've heard good things, but yeah, no, it is a fun way. Book signings and other cons and other events like that are a great way to get in front of new people. And I had to figure out how to do the application for a panelist this year, since now I've officially got accepted versus last year where I was invited as a last minute sign on. This time I did the whole process, and so now I have to go and figure out what panels I slot into. So we'll see. But I'll probably be on the more panelist things. Unfortunately, I don't think I can afford a booth at DragonCon by myself. But I will definitely have to check you out and see your
please do
you signing, and maybe get a book or four.
Or four. Likewise. I know. Okay, have you done the Fantasy Gather?
Do I know the Fantasy Gather? No.
No.
Maybe
okay,
not.
So I haven't actually done it yet. But it's I think the Thursday night of DragonCon is like a big social mixer, basically, where you just can go around and sell your own stuff, like to other authors and writers and stuff. October would know more about that, so I've got to ask him about it. But yeah, I'm definitely planning on doing that this year because I didn't really know about it last year. But that is definitely a main way to get in a lot of the early networking and the early sales. So keep that in mind.
Thank you. I may have to go talk to you when it gets a little closer to time about that, and keep my eye out for. I'm assuming you have to sign up to be there for that.
Yeah,
but
I'm not
like I said, new to all that. Last year, I kind of was like deer in the headlights. I just went there and I was like, this is so overwhelming. There is so much here.
You and me both.
So
you're probably worse because that was like the first one, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like overall, that was my first one. Is like, oh, I'm on the other side of the curtain now. Let's see how the sausage gets made.
See, I love it. Okay, so we're rounding the end of the hour. The hours always move fast, I feel like. So I
Yeah.
always like to ask a couple questions to make sure, outside of here, and I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit, outside of here, where do you recommend people to find you, follow you? Do you have a website? Where are your books sold? That kind of stuff.
Yes, yes, and yes. So obviously here on TikTok, Marshall J. Moore Author. I am also under that name on Instagram, Marshall J. Author, Marshall J. Moore Author. You can find me most places. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I'm at KWAJ14. But Twitter is a wasteland and I barely ever post. So you can find me, but there's no guarantees that I'm going to post anything there. My website is marshalljmoore.com. Super easy, super simple to find, and that's got a complete list of all my novels that are out or forthcoming, all my short stories which have been published. I'm up to like 32 at this point, I think, something ridiculous. Yeah. It's got a contact form, so you can send me messages directly there. It's also got a sign up page for my newsletter, which is probably the best way to get regular updates on me, like we spent a good while discussing. And all of this you can find on my link tree, which is in my bio here on TikTok. And I've got a Discord. Yeah. Join the Discord if you have not already and are interested in hearing more from me.
Yeah, and let me ask, where can your books be found? Like for me, right now I'm exclusive through Amazon. I'm hoping to diversify a little bit going forward next year, but where are your books found?
Also on the Big River Company. Yeah, it's all on Amazon. I've got so all four of them I think are distributed primarily through Amazon. There is I think an Ingram Spark option for some of them, but I'm not 100% because my publisher handles all that on that end for those three, and we haven't really explored it yet with Son of a Sailor since that's still forthcoming. So Amazon is your best bet. I know that the Pale City and possibly the sequels you can find on the Barnes and Noble website, which would be via the Ingram Spark. So if you're a non-Amazon person, you do have an option for the trilogy via Barnes and Noble, but Amazon is the most likely place.
And I do have one other question, because you were talking about like how many short stories you've published, and I know depending on what you've published and what your contracts are, depending on how you do all that, that may change things. But have you ever considered releasing a collection of your short stories in a volume that people
I
can?
I would honestly want nothing more. The trick there is I feel like that would be a vanity project because I love short story collections. I love them whether it's an anthology around a theme or just like the year's Nebula Award nominees, or if it's like short story collection by a specific author. I feel like just given that I don't have a huge amount of name recognition yet, it would be very much a vanity project of like, this is Marshall putting his short stories out, rather than something that would be a feasible commercial investment. So maybe if I get to a point where I am selling more significantly and am a higher profile name, I would like to do that. But until then, I just feel like it's me stroking my own ego. But one day, a few of my short stories out there are free, so like you might have to do a little digging on the website to find them. But like there are some that are not behind a paywall.
Hey, that's very nice. And but yeah, I you mentioned anthologies, and I think that's something that I've not dabbled with. I've not dabbled with that, but that is a great way if any authors listen to this, to be able to get new eyes on your stories, your books, you as yourself as an author, is because when you work as an anthology with multiple authors, everybody's promoting them and cross promoting, and it's a great way. And that's something that I want to take advantage of going forward at some point, but I've not done so yet.
Yeah, I could spend the next hour talking about short stories alone. From a craft standpoint, I think that short stories are one of the absolute best ways to improve your skill as a writer, because you've got to cram a book's worth of narrative into 3,000 or 5,000 words, and that takes a lot of skill and a lot of economy of word choice. And it really, I don't think I became a competent writer until I shifted my transition from novels to short stories. I'm obviously not saying that's universal for everybody, just for me. But for those out there who are considering it, I strongly suggest giving short stories a try.
Oh, I definitely agree, and it's one of those things I appreciate more and more. I think the older I get, because when I started writing, my full lengths they have a lot of words to them. They have a lot of words to them, and so I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could tell a story in a shorter form. And so that ended up for me turning into my novella Viking series. And so that was another shorter form. And then I was like, well, I want to be able to gift out things to people who sign up for my newsletter. And so I then started moving backpedaling into actual short stories. But it is a good challenge, especially like if you're an author that is one like a little drill. Just say, I know you have a project and probably 5,000 that you're trying to push after that, but challenge yourself to carve out a little niche and see if you can tell a story, like you said, in 3,000 to 5,000 words.
Exactly. I find it's a good palate cleanser between longer projects too.
Very true, very true. And it allows you potentially to dabble in things that you might not have tried elsewhere. Maybe you want to write a romance, or maybe you want to go sci-fi and you typically write epic fantasy. Who knows? But that's a great way to try to dip your toe in something. Well, my final question for you, and then is there any topics that we haven't covered or any questions that you had that you wanted to, ask that you haven't done so at this moment?
I think we covered pretty much everything. Just going to reiterate, Son of a Sailor comes out on May 25th. This is a sweet, fun little cozy pirate adventure that means the world to me and I'm very invested in. And I hope that if anyone wants to give it a try, you go to my link tree, find the first chapter for free, give it a read, and see what you think.
Yeah, and I will be, when I repurpose this on my YouTube channel, I'll add all your links below. It'll be a few weeks, so your book will probably be out by then, but you'll have the links down there, and I'll try to remember to add this direct link to your newest one down there below as well.
Awesome. Thank you much. I know.
Anyway, but thank you so much for coming out and chit-chatting with me, and if you ever want to do one of these again, let me know. I try to schedule them once to maybe twice a week, depending on my schedule. And now that I know a fellow author in the Atlanta area, reach out if you want to say hi, and I will definitely be catching you in Dragon Con.
Definitely. We will hopefully see each other in person before then.
Yeah, perfect. I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thanks for everybody who's been listening.
Thank you, everyone. Farewell.
Bye.